Oh, am I doing the introduction this time? Okay. Hello, everyone. Whether you're tuning in for the very first time or you're a familiar face around here, welcome to another episode of Oops, We Binged It Again, the podcast where streaming meets cross generational chaos. I'm Nandini, your Gen Z guide, and with me is my Gen X, let's say, partner in crime and mother, Mukta. We're here to give you honest, spoiler free takes on all the shows and films we've binged so you can spend less time hunting and a lot more time actually watching.
And I steal what Nandini always says, listeners. We like to keep things short, sharp, and to the point, giving you a proper review that goes a little bit deeper than what you'd usually find online to read. We dive deep into the shows and the movies so you get a full picture of whether it's worth your time. And honestly, that's the intent of our podcast.
Mhm.
And of course, the best bit, you'll get two different generations weighing in. And well, sometimes we see eye to eye, and other times, let's say, we agree to disagree. Nandini.
That was a nice switch of mics. I think we should do that all the time.
So before we get into our main review today, listeners, let's rewind a bit to how we actually stumbled upon this movie series. Let me set the stage. I know it's comedy, but I'll try to make it sound a bit of thriller. So the time was around the dark evening, one day of December of 2024. Right, Nandini?
That was a good one. Yeah, I remember that time rather vividly, actually. I was going through something particularly tough at work, and honestly, I was just looking for something lighthearted to watch to sort of get my mind off of these things.
I remember. And for me, listeners, with the early sunsets here in the UK and being away from family during Christmas, I was feeling a lot homesick. We both really needed something cheerful to lift our spirits.
Absolutely. And remember, during our usual Netflix scroll, we agreed no intense murder mysteries this time.
Nandini, do you think I can ever forget that torture?
So we were browsing through Netflix, doing our usual scroll, and then this trailer all of a sudden for A Madea Christmas popped up.
Listeners, trust me, she bullied me into watching that short 30-second-ish trailer. But trust me, it had us in fits of laughter.
See?
I'm not usually, or rather, I must say, I'm never sold on comedies. But this one had something about it.
Honestly, listeners, I've caught my mum watching air crash investigations in the morning at 5 a.m. So to have her watching a comedy series is a big achievement. So the Madea Christmas, this just seemed so magnetic, I would say. And we thought, let's give it a shot. And that's how we got introduced to the world of Madea.
Introduced and hooked.
Ah, yes.
But before we dive deeper into this movie series, Nandini, let's give our listeners a bit of background on who Medea is.
Ah, yes. Mabel, lovingly known as Madea, is a fictional character both created and portrayed by Tyler Perry. She's a tough, no nonsense grandmother with a heart of gold. Oh, also a handbag that often carries more than just essentials.
I remember.
Tyler Perry plays her himself, and while he does dress as the character, it's not just about cross dressing for shock value. It's really about bringing this larger than life matriarch to our lives.
Right. And actually, Nandini, I recently learned that Medea's character is actually inspired by Perry's own mom and aunt.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah. And Medea has been featured in numerous films and stage plays even before, and always delivering both laugh and life lessons. And here, listeners, the movies that we're going to be talking about also tackle a lot of themes, but at the core, they're about family, love, resilience, wrapped with lots and lots and lots of laughter.
Exactly. And A Madea Christmas was our entry point into this wonderful universe. And can I just say, we never looked back.
Honestly, after we watched Madea Christmas, we really couldn't get enough. Listeners, we knew right then that we needed to find more of these films.
Exactly. But the thing was, Mum, if you remember, when we were scrolling through Netflix, I think here in the UK, you only had about 2 or 3 Madea films, didn't you? There was our first, obviously, A Madea Christmas. Then there was A Madea Homecoming, which we have, I think, which is a recent one. And also the very first Madea movie, Diary of a Mad Black Woman.
Correct. Oh, and we really wanted to watch Medea Goes to Jail next.
Oh, yeah.
But sadly, it wasn't available in the UK, listeners. We found out only later that it's streaming only on platforms in America.
That was so disappointing.
Oh, yes, it was. I can only imagine what that Medea Goes to Jail would be
Oh
like.
my god, honestly. But despite, I'll say, not being able to find a few of these films, we didn't give up. We ended up going over to Apple TV and started renting the rest of the Medea films. Honestly, I think we just kept watching them right through the Christmas break, one after the other.
It became sort of a tradition for us over those holidays. And just so you know, listeners, there are actually 12 Medea films altogether. And Tyler Perry started this whole Medea universe with the stage plays first. And then he made all these films where he plays Medea himself, the sassy, sharp grandmother. And like Nandini had mentioned earlier, who's got a lot to say. And trust me, just is not scared to say it.
Oh, you really could not have summarized her better. So today we thought we'd have a bit of a chat about starting with A Madea Christmas. This is where it all began for us. So in summary, it's about Medea being dragged along on this Christmas trip to a tiny countryside town. And of course, like everything that could go wrong does.
It does.
But what made it so funny was just Medea being Medea.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what we both liked was that it wasn't silly for the sake of it. Medea was hilarious, but there was an actual proper story underneath about family, about acceptance, all of that. It wasn't just a joke after a joke after a joke. And some of those lines, oh my god. In the beginning of the movie, when Eileen, and she's Medea's niece, she's sitting in a back room of a retail store where they were both working, maybe for Christmas. And she's all upset that her daughter hasn't invited her for Christmas. Oh my god, such a crime during holidays. And Medea just goes, maybe she just don't want to see you.
Yeah, I remember that.
I was like, ouch. Somehow you don't even get offended when Medea says it. You just burst out laughing.
Exactly. Oh my god, and now that you said that, remember that scene, the same mall that they were working at the start? Medea, she looked at her sort of uniform, this like sparkly red outfit, and she said, I look like the whole damn red light district. Tyler Perry, I guess, really knows how to make Medea so outrageous, but somehow still so lovable.
Exactly, and that's what we kept saying while watching. You get the laughs, but you also get that warm family feel. Like, Medea's obviously rough around the edges, but she's sort of like a funny agony aunt, isn't she, Nandini?
Yeah, agony aunt, definitely.
But oh my god, she keeps everyone grounded, even while causing absolute chaos.
Completely. And honestly, after A Madea Christmas, we just had to see more. Which brings us to the movie Boo! A Madea Halloween.
Yes, the Halloween one. And listeners, there are two of these, 1 and 2. But then at least something about my genre also was mixed in.
Oh, when she saw Halloween, she was like, horror, yes, let's watch this one.
Exactly. But listeners, the plot is very simple. Medea is meant to be babysitting her great niece to stop her from sneaking off to Halloween party. Kids, you know. And in classic Medea fashion, it just spirals into complete chaos.
Yeah, oh my god. And what made it even better was all these new characters that they brought in. Remember, you've got Joe, obviously, who's Medea's grumpy old brother, and Tyler Perry plays him too, by the way. And then there's my mum's favorite, Auntie Bam and Hattie.
Bam and Hattie. I think they were honestly half the reason we kept laughing.
Yes.
Like, you remember Nandini, Bam stealing sweets off the trick-or-treaters?
Yeah.
And Hattie just creeping at every little noise. So, I mean, proper over the top, but in the best way.
Exactly. And Joe, oh my god, remember Joe with his mouth. I remember there's this one scene when there was a clown in that house and the clown was trying to scare all of them.
Yes, yes.
And Joe just turns around, smacks him really hard and says, I don't play this Halloween rubbish.
And what I loved is, even though it's all mad and funny, underneath it, there's still that same message in the movie. I personally really appreciated that. Like Brian, the dad, he realizes he needs to toughen up with his daughter. And then you've got Medea there. She's all about keeping the family together.
Absolutely. I think that's the thing about these films. It's not just random jokes. There's always some comfort there. And that's why I think we've binge watched just about every Madea movie that was available in the UK. Remember this one? What was it? Medea's witness protection.
Oh my god. That one too was an out of this world funny. So listeners, this is about this Wall Street guy called George who gets caught up in some stupid Ponzi scheme, and he and his whole family have to go into witness protection. Now guess what? Where do they end up? You guessed it right. At Medea's house.
And the best bit was when she said she wasn't going to help them. She was like full on refusing until Madea heard that she's getting 4 grand a month for this. Then I can't remember the exact dialogue, but I know it's along the lines of she says, I believe it would be the greatest Christianity thing that I could do to help somebody in need.
Exactly. And even though it's all mad and over the top, there's that nice little message that keeps pulling everything together, facing stuff head on, and then a bit of second chances too. But you do not feel preached at. It's just mixed in with all the madness.
Yeah. So, if we were to talk a bit about how Medea's screen time has evolved across these films. If you remember, Mum, when we watched Diary of a Mad Black Woman, which was one of the earliest ones, I think the first one, there was actually very little Madea in it. Like, we went in expecting all of the Madea madness because obviously we had started with A Madea Christmas. But that movie, The Diary of a Mad Black Woman, was a really heavy emotional story. Which is obviously fine, but that's not really what we were looking for at the time.
Yeah, definitely. But then, as we watched more of the films, especially the later ones, we saw that Madea started getting loads more screen time.
Mm-hmm.
She was proper front and center, guys, and you could really see the shift. It became much more about her and her antics, which honestly is what made the films so much fun for us.
Exactly, and honestly, not just her. We started getting a lot more of Tyler Perry playing as Joe, but even playing as himself sometimes. And then they brought in these other family members like Bam and Hattie and a lot of people from that extended family.
Yeah, and I think that's when we really started enjoying the series even more.
Yeah.
It felt more like a proper comedy ensemble rather than just serious stories with a bit of Madea thrown in. So, to you listeners, we'd recommend starting with the more recent ones if you're looking for laughter from the get-go.
Agreed, yeah, because I think what you're saying is really interesting because we started watching one of the sort of the more recent ones and we really liked it. And if you maybe start from the very beginning, perhaps when you have little Madea in it, you might not relate to a lot of the comedy and the comedic aspect that we're trying to sort of bring out here. So yeah, I think definitely start with some of the more recent ones, but like us, definitely do give the entire series a shot.
Nandini, have you seen something today? Very strange. But this is one review where you and I haven't actually disagreed over anything, have we?
That's an interesting one as well.
I
That
just
is
realized.
a very good one.
And you know what? I was also thinking, while we've spoken about these, I think it's time to watch them again.
Definitely.
I know.
Let's start with Medea's witness protection tonight.
Oh, yes, we should.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay, but before we close, we did just want to quickly mention we know that the Madea films have had a bit of criticism over the years, especially about how some of the characters are portrayed.
Yeah, some people feel that the films play into certain stereotypes about black families or make the humor a bit too broad and exaggerated, maybe.
Exactly, and honestly, I think, Mum, you'd agree, it's very important to acknowledge that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, from our point of view, as just everyday viewers, we honestly didn't read it that way.
Yeah, we just saw it as a warm look at a really close knit family. I mean, if anything, listeners, it felt very relatable. In fact, we found ourselves appreciating the large yet one family culture even more, Nandini, remember?
Mm-hmm.
It was extremely comforting to watch.
Especially during that Christmas time, when you think about it, when we really missed family, when we really wanted to watch something light. And I mean, obviously, we completely understand where the criticism comes from because everyone's entitled to an opinion, everyone has a perspective. But I would just say, when we watched it, it didn't really feel disrespectful or negative. It just felt hearty.
Proper family comfort, I must say.
Mm-hmm.
And Tyler Perry? Listeners, he's built such a strong world around Medea. I agree, it's a bit loud and mad at times, but it's always full of love and heart underneath it all.
Absolutely. Alrighty, before we wrap up, all we want to say is if you're looking for something funny, feel good, and just easy to enjoy, the Madea series is definitely worth a watch. Personally, rating wise, I'd say a strong 9 or even a 10 from me, especially because it really cheered us up over Christmas.
Yup. Not every film is perfect in this series, listeners. Some will be a 7 or a 8, to be honest. But this is the kind of series that just will make you smile. And a little heads up, Medea's Destination Wedding is coming to Netflix this year.
Oh my god, I learned about that today. Can you imagine? I was like, Mom, we need to publish this podcast now.
I know, and we've already set the remind me alert. Can't wait.
Honestly. And since we're on the topic of laughter, next week we're jumping into something that's a little more sneaky, but still packed with comedy. Honestly, I think the best way to describe it would be if Madea ever joined a spy agency, it might look a bit like what we're covering next.
So, listeners, stay tuned. And remember, if Medea taught us anything, it was never trust someone who's wearing too much perfume and asking too many questions.